Okay, so what I want to do with this video is kind of show you as best I can through video the ins and outs of this pellet boiler. So I'm going to kind of show you all the parts and pieces to it, and then I'll pull the camera back on a tripod and show you some other things that you may need to know. So this is a Kettle brand pellet boiler. This is your hopper here. That'll fit, when full, about 15 bags of pellets. So you dump the pellets in here. There's an auger system down at the bottom. Pulls the pellets up this tube, drops them into this shaft and into the burn pot to keep the fire going. So if you're familiar with a regular pellet stove, it kind of works the same way. It's just a bigger unit. It's actually a very simple unit. There's not a lot to them. It's not real complicated. Anything that I've done or needed done on these, any work, I've done them myself. I've done some research. I can send you a link to a website if you need to order parts, where you can get parts from, but there's really not a lot to these. Once you get to know them, they're pretty simple to operate, and if they need repairs, pretty simple to repair. I've replaced the green control board on the inside of the burner. There was an issue with it a few years ago when we first moved in, and I thought that was it. It turned out that wasn't a problem, but I bought the new control panel, so I just left it in there. I've replaced the combustion fan on it, and obviously the igniters, those got to be replaced from time to time throughout the season anyway. That's a common, the igniters only last so long, and I'll show you that at some point during the video. So kind of the ins and outs of this. So first thing, you get ready to start this up. So I run this typically late November, early December into middle March. So pellet boilers are a lot like burning wood. You can run this year round, but they run more efficiently in the colder weather. A pellet boiler, an oil boiler, you want that to kick on, get up to temperature quickly, shut down. Pellet boilers run more efficiently when they're running. You don't want them to start and stop constantly. So the warmer the weather, the more ignitions you have, the more they have to get up to temperature, and then they shut down. You really want these kind of set so they turn on and they're running for long periods of time, just gradually running along to keep heat going in your house. So I found that the colder temperatures is when they work the best. So in the off season, I use the oil boiler or the heat pumps. This is set up so that the oil boiler, and I'll show you how that actually works, but it's set up so the oil boiler is backup. So if this happened to shut down in the middle of the night, or you're gone at work, it doesn't ignite, or it's jammed up, or something else goes wrong and it shuts down, your oil boiler is going to take over and keep the heat going in your house, so you won't be without heat. So that's how it's all looped together, so the oil is backup. So kind of the other things, there's this here, I'll show you this in a minute. This is your switch to kick the whole unit on. That shuts power off to the entire furnace. This is a Wi-Fi extender. There's an app for this, so you can be anywhere and you can monitor your furnace. You can see if it's lighting, you can see if it's got any issues, if it doesn't light for some reason, if it shuts down for some reason. You can see how many pounds of pellets you got left in your hopper. So there's an app for your phone, and then you can also go to a website. The app for the phone you can do minimal things with, but you can go to the website and you can completely control this whole interface, which is currently off. You can control everything. I can sit at my office and go to the website, and I can control everything in this furnace. I can shut it down if I need to. I can bump up the temperatures. I can change the fan speed. I can do all kinds of stuff with it. So that's why this is a Wi-Fi extender. So you can access the interface to that on your app or a website. there's a air compressor here. You'll hear that kick on in a minute. The pressure is down to 0 because I've had it off. That air compressor is part of the cleaning system. So every 50 pounds of pellets it burns, it goes through a cleaning cycle. Every time it reaches temperature, the boiler reaches temperature and the boiler stops running because it's reached temperature, it goes through a cleaning cycle. Part of that cleaning cycle is there's a fan behind this red shield that'll kick on at high speed and it blows the ash out inside of the furnace and keeps that clean. This blue hose is connected to the air compressor. At the end of the cleaning cycle, you'll hear it shoot 3 shots of air. That air is to keep, there's a photo sensor in there that senses your flame. If that photo sensor doesn't see any flame and there's supposed to be flame, it'll kick it through a reignite system to get it reignited, to get the flame going again. So it's important that that photo sensor stays clean. At the end of every cleaning cycle, this shoots air onto that photo sensor to keep the dust off in it. So it's a really neat cleaning system where you don't typically, you got to keep your ash bin cleaned out, but as far as cleaning the actual boiler, you don't, some people can go the whole season. I'll shut it down in February and do a good cleaning on it and kick it back on. You wouldn't need to, but the cleaner it is, the more efficient that it runs. This over here, not to get too sidetracked, but these are baffles that you can put inside of the furnace. I keep them out. The baffles are supposed to make it run more efficient, but I've done a lot of research and I've talked to a couple people at Kettle. They're located in Denmark, but there's a guy from the States that lives over there and he's their tech guy and he's sharp. I've had a lot of questions for him. He's even FaceTimed me before to look at my settings and make sure everything is set right. But those baffles, depending on, because of the size of the house, it runs more efficient for this size of house to remove those baffles. So I've removed those, I leave those out. And I'll show you that in a few minutes. So I'm gonna turn it on. So you just flick the switch, you're gonna hear the air compressor turn on. And that'll run until it gets up to air. And once that switch is on, obviously that air compressor is going to maintain air as it needs to. So if it gets low on air, it'll automatically kick on and off. Again, I've had it off all summer, so that's why there's no air in it. I use these barrels to keep my ashes in when I clean the ash bin out. We'll let that get up to temperature, or up to pressure, that air compressor. And then we'll look a little closer at this interface. All of these gauges down here, these shut-offs, they're on. I don't shut them off in the off-season. There's no need to. That keeps the water flowing, looping these 2 red hoses. Water comes in, there's pressure's off, water comes in and it loops into that oil furnace. That's how the oil will know if things aren't up to temperature to kick on. So turn the switch on, this is your interface. You can see it says off by user. It's got a thing that says the hopper is nearly empty because it is empty. I empty it at the end of every season when I clean it out. I completely empty everything out, the shaft and everything. This will show you, so this shows me, it says I have 13.9 pounds of pellets. I don't, I just hadn't reset that yet. This tells me the temperature of the shaft. This will end up telling me the boiler temperature, what it's set on. This will tell me the temperature of the water running through the system. So this here, when I turn it on, this says 65.4. How that circulator is set up, when you first turn the unit on in the fall, early winter, whenever you start it up, that circulator pump won't start pumping water into the oil boiler room until this reaches 140 degrees. When that water temperature reaches 140, that circulator kicks on and then it starts flowing the water through those red tubes that I showed you that loops into the boiler room. So you can see all of this from the app as well. So I don't have any pellets in it. I can maybe run through it with you when it comes time to get pellets, but you know, you can hit this interface can be finicky. It's a touch screen if it's dusty. So if I want to turn it on, I'm gonna hit the power button and I'm gonna hit the on button. When you hit the on button, it'll go through, so it's set up to go through 2 ignition cycles, and if it doesn't ignite within 2 cycles, it stops and it'll send you a warning that it cannot ignite for whatever reason. When you first start it up, the very first time in the fall, when everything's cold, it normally takes going through almost 2 full ignition cycles before that first batch of pellets catches fire. Once it does in the system, you're running it regularly and the system is up to temperature and everything's warm. When it comes time to need to ignite, it'll drop pellets in, and normally within 5 or 6 minutes of starting the ignition cycle, it ignites and you get fire and it's up and going. So there's other things you can click on the screen here anywhere, and you get other, so like if I add pellets to it, say I add 400 pounds of pellets, I'm going to go to hopper and I'm going to put right here, I'm going to click on that 14. I can put 400 in and enter, and then it will update. If I were to do that, it would show here that I now have 400 pounds of pellets in the hopper. So that's where you update all of that. You got your boiler, you can use your boiler temps, your fan speed. I would leave all that alone. I've got it pretty well set so it runs efficiently. I've done a lot of calculating with it and configuring with it and working with Kettle on it. I didn't put this in, the previous owner put it in, but he didn't do a whole lot with it. I've got it so it's running very efficiently with their help and a lot of my own research. You can go to boiler. If you go down here to auger. So what I do when this first starts up in the fall, you're going to fill this with pellets. Now, don't fill it with 15 bags of pellets before you get it running, because what I've found is if you put too many pellets in before you get this auger turning, sometimes it jams up down there. So I start with a bag or 2 of pellets. I get this tube, this shaft filled with pellets. Once this is filled and it's running smooth, then I'll fill my hopper up. And from there on out, once that shaft is, that's just your first startup. Once that's full, you can keep that hopper full throughout the winter. On the coldest of days, if that hopper had 15 bags in it, I'm talking cold days, you'd still get 3 to 4 days before that hopper was completely emptied. I typically don't let it go that long. I'll throw, a couple days, I'll throw 5 more bags in or whatever, just to keep it fairly full. But when I first put those bag or 2 of pellets in, I've got to get that shaft filled up with pellets and get those all pulled up with that auger up to where it's going to drop it into the shaft. So how I do that, where it says right here, the force run external auger, it's set on 0. I'll run that, say, for 30 seconds. So you hear that running? You probably can't see it because it's dirty. That auger's turning. If there were pellets in there, it would start pulling the pellets up this shaft. And I'll just keep running that for 30 seconds to a minute. It'll stop. I don't typically run it more than 30 seconds in case it were to have a problem or whatever, but so I just keep doing that. I'll run it for another 30 seconds until all my pellets, that shaft is filled with pellets, and they're all the way up to here. From there, then I fill my hopper, and that maintains itself as long as you don't let it run out. So that's that function there. And there's a bunch of other data you can look at on here. But that's the gist of the interface. So that's the overall system. When you're done at the end of the season, you can, and again, some people run these here. Some people, this is the only heat source they have in their house. And because this is looped in with the oil boiler, this handles even your hot water during the winter. This is running anything that requires a furnace. The hot water, the heat in the garage, the heat in the basement, the heat upstairs, this pellet boiler will take care of it, and it is extremely efficient. I had a house before this half the size of this, and it cost me less money to heat this great big entire house, including my garage, than the previous home half the size cost me with just heating with oil. So it's very efficient. So that's kind of part one. I'm going to reset my camera and I'm going to show you some other things to look at. Okay, so I want to kind of show you, I don't know, hopefully the camera catches this fine, but kind of how to take this apart if you need to access the fan or the control board or change the igniter out. So the first thing you're going to do, unplug the air compressor hose. I just kind of hang it here. This is the power that connects from this interface up here that I showed you earlier down to the control board. So that interface is what tells everything what to do here. It sends a signal. I'm going to unplug that. I'm going to take this drop shaft off, and then this just pops off. So you got there's a control board. I probably can't see it with the camera. There's a control board here. This is your auger motor that feeds the pellets into the burn pot. This is your combustion fan. If you wanted to really do a good deep cleaning on it, you can there's two shaft bolts here with a wing nut. Take those wing nuts off. This whole thing pulls out and you can dump it out. You can dump out the ash or the burnt pellets. If you needed to change the igniter out, a couple things. If it doesn't ignite, it may be that it's jammed up and needs to be cleaned, or it could be that your igniter needs to be replaced. How you know if that igniter needs to be replaced is you can test it with your meter. And this is going to be hard to see. But there are the igniter, you'll see it when you actually get in the house, but this is your burn pot. You'll see on your control panel there's two white cords that are hooked in, and if you follow them down, it goes into this rubber grommet and goes inside of here. That's your igniter. That's what ignites the pellets. So what you can do, a good test is you take a voltmeter and you place it these two spots where that's hooked in to the control panel. If you touch the metal screw and you're getting a 0 reading, that means your igniter's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. If you were to touch those together and you're getting numbers that are going up and down and it's not reading 0 on your voltmeter, that means your igniter's bad. Your igniter needs to be replaced. So from there, the igniter you pull out of here is going to look different. It's a different, I can't get that brand anymore, so I had to get some new ones. I got 2 spare igniters. They're going to look like this. You pull that igniter out of the burn pot. You loosen these 2 screws, pull the wire out, take your 2 wires here, put them back in the same spot, tighten the screw up, and slide your igniter back. There's a shaft for that igniter. You'll see it to slide into. You just push it down until it hits the end. You do that, put everything back together, start it back up, and you're back up and running. Typically, you should only have to replace that igniter once a season. Sometimes, depending on the season, how many ignitions you've had, I've had them go where I put an igniter in it and it lasts the entire season and I don't have to replace it till partway through the next one. So it depends, but at the most you shouldn't have to replace an igniter more than once a season if you're only running it like I was, kind of end November, 1st of December through beginning, middle of March. An igniter should last you, except one time at the most that you should have to replace that. So I just wanted to show you that. I'll stop the video and I got one other thing I want to show you. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention on the last video, always make sure when you're taking this apart over here that I just showed you, make sure your power's off. Shut the boiler down, turn the switch off to kill all power to it as well. The other thing I wanted to show you, when you need to clean your ashes out, and this is important, this is where your ash bin is here. So pull this cover off, pull this lever, and inside of there is a bin. There's a handle on it. You just pull it out and dump your ash. You'll have to do that a few times during the heating season. That's just magnetic, sticks on there. So that ash bin will hold about a ton of pellets, burnt pellets. So I kind of keep track of it. I have it clean when I start, and as I get to about where I burnt a ton, when this hits a point where it's stopped, it's got up to temperature, and the furnace has stopped and has gone through its cleaning cycle, I'll come down and I'll pull that ash bin out, and I keep them in these metal buckets, my burnt ash, just because they're hot. You don't want to put them in anything that's going to burn. You can also take them and dump them outside or whatever. They work great on icy driveways. Burnt ashes work great on icy driveways even. So I save them, and in case I need them. But that's cleaning that out. And I think that's it. I can't think of anything else that I really need to show you right off on it. I'll make sure my realtor passes on my contact information to you. Glad to, if you have any questions at all throughout the winter, let me know, call me, text me, whatever. Like I said, I've run this for the past 5 years. I'm pretty familiar with it, done a lot of research, I've studied it, I've worked on it, I fixed it, I cleaned it. So that's, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. We're glad to help you and guide you and direct you. Okay, so I want to show you a couple things as far as cleaning this. If the middle of the season you want to do a cleaning on it, or you need to do a cleaning on it, or at the end of the season, after you're done using it, I usually clean. I don't wait till fall time. I don't like all that ash sitting in there all summer long, all fall long. I like to get it cleaned out as soon as possible. So again, I'll empty. I try to burn my pellets down so they're pretty well all burnt out. But you're going to have some left in this shaft and maybe a little bit in the hopper. So I'll empty that out. I'll do kind of like on the startup where I showed you how to get the pellets pulled up the shaft. I'll kind of do the same thing to get it emptied. And I'll get all the pellets emptied out of that shaft. You also can unhook all of this, and you can take the screws out of this right here, pull that out, and that whole shaft, you can take this whole thing out. Actually, you don't need to take the screws out of that. Those can stay in. Just unplug it here, unhook it here, and you can pull that whole shaft out, and you can dump all the pellets out of it and get this completely empty. I like to have it, I don't like old pellets sitting in there. I like to keep that completely empty. So it's the end of the season. I shut it down. I'm going to do a cleaning on it. I'm going to empty my ash bin out that I showed you. My switch is off. I'm going to unhook my Wi-Fi here. And this, it's going to be hard to see. I'll stand back in a minute. That whole cover lifts up. Okay? And then you can lift this up right here. It's probably too dark to see. That right there, that's your burn pot. Your pellets come in from the outside, they burn in there. And then when it goes through cleaning cycles, the ashes get pushed out into the ash bin. So that gets all cleaned out. I have these scrapers here. They're hanging on the wall. You'll see them. There's some scrapers, and we scrape the sides of that boiler down. Also, the previous owner had a neat little, he's got a golf club here that he cut down and re-welded so it's short. Every couple days, because what will happen, this is just like a pellet stove, your burn pot, especially if it's running a lot, gets ashes built up and they can get hard. And if you get what they call a clunker, it gets to the point where it can't burn, it kind of smolders the fire out and it'll shut the system down. So to prevent that, instead of having to pull this whole burn pot out, this little golf club works perfect. It reaches right in there. You can reach in there and grab that and scrape. You can scrape any burnt ash down. So when it's really running hard because it's cold out, about every 2 days, if I can catch it timing wise where it's shut down and gone through a cleaning cycle and it's not running, I'll open it up, I'll reach in there, I'll clean that burn pot out instead of waiting for it to get so clogged up that it shuts down on you. There's no point in that. Just clean it every couple days and you won't have that problem. So you clean that out, and then you come over here. There's a wing nut here, there's a wing nut there. You take these two wing nuts off, this whole cover right here pulls off, and you'll see you got baffles down in there as well. You take these scrapers, scrape the sides of all that baffle down. And that's as hard as it is to clean in this thing. It really isn't. I would say maybe, by the time I do all that, once I do that, I get it all scraped down, then I come back here and pull my ash bin out, clean all that out, and I'll vacuum all that. As long as it's cool, I'll vacuum all of that ash out of there, get it good and clean. Clean my floor up. I'll pull off my pipe here, get that cleaned out. Maybe an hour, maybe an hour, start to finish. I also have, sorry for the camera going all over the place. I also have and I'll leave it here, I have a cleaning system that hooks onto my drill, and it's designed to clean this chimney from the inside out, so you don't have to get up on the roof and run a cleaner down through. So I can take all that piping out, I can keep hooking shafts on, you keep adding shafts to it, and from inside you just run your drill and you keep pushing it up the chimney, and it's got these plastic, almost looks like string trimmer ends, is almost what it looks like. That turns and that cleans your chimney right out. Now typically with these pellet boilers, the ash, it's not like burning wood. I clean that chimney every other year, but honestly, it wouldn't need to be. I mean, shoot, you could probably go 5, 6, 7 years. There's not ash buildup in a chimney like there is a wood, burning wood. It just isn't. So when I first moved in, you see how this block is stained? Previous owner was getting a lot of moisture dripping back down the chimney. And when I did my research, he couldn't figure out how to fix it. Did my research, it was due to flue gas. The flue gas it goes up the chimney, and as flue gas condenses, if it's not warm enough air to get it out of the chimney, it creates almost like a rain, and it'll have moisture coming back down your chimney, and it shouldn't be that way. And so I did some research. He thought it needed a different liner, a smaller liner to keep it from doing that. That was not the case at all. I contacted the guy and had him come out here. Kind of what I was getting at with that, when he went to put the liner in down from the top, he looked and it hadn't been cleaned in about 5 years. He said it's just as clean as a whistle in there. But I ended up not putting the liner in because I did some more research. That liner was about $2,000. I contacted Kettle, and what it turned out to be is when they installed this unit, the combustion fan that came on it was not large enough. It wasn't blowing hard enough to get all the flue gases up out of the chimney. So I put a bigger blower on it, and ever since then I've never had a problem. I have never had a problem pushing it. I've never had moisture coming back down that chimney. It's never been an issue at all. So it was just the combustion fan wasn't big enough, and nobody was able to figure that out, I guess. So that's pretty much the pellet boiler. Okay, so I had mentioned in the pellet boiler videos that this oil boiler that you're looking at now is set up as backup. The water all comes from the pellet boiler. If the light isn't too bright, these two hoses, remember I showed you two red hoses out there, those are the same hoses. Once that water temperature hits 140 degrees in that pellet boiler, circulator turns on, it starts circulating water into this oil boiler, and it loops constantly. So that's how the oil boiler knows if the water temperature gets below a certain temperature coming into the oil boiler that it needs to kick on and take over, because that's not keeping up for whatever reason. But how that really kind of is set up and done, see this control box right here on the side, there's a set screw right here on the bottom, you can loosen it. Take two hands, this cover pops off. You see right now where that says, keeps flashing, BT, boiler temperature, 147. That's the current temperature of the boiler right now. It's set for 160. This will get down to 145, I believe it is. Yeah, 145 before it'll kick on and warm back up to 160. And that's only if it's calling for heat. It's a cold start boiler. So if you ever open this up and it's showing 110 degrees, you're going, well, shouldn't that be kicking on? No, it's only going to get it back up to 160 if something's calling for heat. Otherwise, it just sits there. So what I do, if I'm using this oil boiler for heat, see these three buttons right here, 1, 2, 3. If you press and hold those all at the same time, I don't know if I can do this with one hand. See where that says HL? That's high-low. I gotta get it to blink. Okay, so I do that. Now I can hit the up and down, and I can adjust it for what I want it to be. So in the months where I'm using my oil to heat with, the off months, I'll turn this all the way up to 185. Okay? In the months I'm not, like I want my pellet boiler to keep the temperature, or it's summertime, and the only thing I need this for is hot water, I'll keep this at 160. So I adjust it as needed. That'll take a minute. That'll keep doing that for a minute, and then you'll see it flash BT for boiler temperature again, and whatever you set it as is locked in. So again, what I'm doing with this, if it's the months that so fall time, I'm using heat pumps, and I'm using this for heat in the house. It's hard to do this with one hand. So times of year, late fall, early spring, that I need heat in the house and I'm not running my pellet boiler for heat, I'll come in and I'll turn that up to 185 degree boiler temperature. That way it heats the house quickly. It gets the temperature up, because again, this is the opposite as a wood pellet boiler. Oil boiler, you want this to kick on, you want it to get up to temperature quickly, and you want it to shut off. You don't want it running constantly. So in those months I'm using this for heat, I'll turn that up to 185. If this time of year I've got my pellet boiler running, I want my pellet boiler to be primary, I will turn that down to 160. So the only time I turn that up to 185 is if it's the off months or my pellet boiler goes down for some reason and I need heat. I'll come in here and turn that up, or turn my heat pumps on or something. So that's set on 160. So if the water looping through these hoses from the pellet boiler is coming in and that starts reading below 160 degrees, this oil boiler is going to automatically kick on to help. And it could be because that went down, or it could just be if it's really cold and I got a lot of zones calling for heat, that initially, especially if the pellet boiler is just starting up, it might be struggling to keep up. This will kick in and help it maintain temperature. So that's that. So the last thing I want to show you, I've got a sump pump here. It's been raining, so you see how the water, you can see the wet there around it. The water comes in, comes down, goes right into that sump pump. That sump pump pumps over here, runs along the wall. That hose, it's hard to see because I got too much junk, but that hose drains out under the ground, right here into these floor grates. Okay? It goes through the floor grates over here. Bear with me. There's floor grate under the truck, under the car. And it goes underground out to that grass spot by that tree. There's a hose. You'll see the end of a hose sticking out where it drains out. So the water from that sump pump goes all the way here. It goes underground. Also, this gutter goes into the same hose. In the springtime, February, end of February, which I know isn't really spring, but March-ish, when things start melting. It starts getting warm enough where things can melt. That drain line could have some ice in it, could have some frozen water in it. So what I do, you'll see this cord right here. And if you pull down from this corner, so I'm standing outside of the garage, looking at the garage, the right side corner, you'll see that cord, that's heat tape. I got it hiding up in this corner. I just run an extension cord. I plug that in. I run an extension cord up to this outlet. I use this little guy. It's actually an app. It's a adapter, and you can hook it to your app. And that way you can control it. You can set it for timing to turn on and off to run that heat tape. So I run that heat tape goes all the way out to where that drains out to that grass spot. And that keeps it thawed out. So in the springtime, if you're getting a lot of water, you know, that's melting off and going into the sump pump and draining out, it keeps that thawed out. So the water keeps pumping out. And you typically, like I said, when it starts, I think I normally plug it in around the first, second week of March. I watch the weather. If we happen to get a thaw in February, I might go plug it in. And usually, you know, by the 1st of April, you can unplug it. It'll stay thawed out. So that heat tape just keeps that thawed out. So I think that's the last video. I know I've thrown a lot at you between the pellet boiler and the oil boiler and the heat tape. Seems like a lot. It really isn't. Once you learn everything and figure out how everything works and where it is, it's pretty simple. But again, my realtor will have my contact information. I'll make sure that gets passed on to you at any time you have a question about anything. Reach out to me.